Boom. What's up, everybody? Haven't had a lot of biking videos lately. It's because the weather sucks. While we do get to ride year-round in Atlanta typically, it definitely does get cold, and we've had a little bit of snow and ice and rain. So I got my new Helibars installed, and I need to go and, try them out and do a review. But trying to get a day that the weather is not horrible. And today, not much going on. It's kind of quiet. Looks like my wife hit a curb recently again. Every fucking wheel she has. Excuse is always the same. I can't see the curb. Nobody can. You typically, my rental car, because my Corvette's in the shop. It's like nobody can see the damn curb from the driver's seat. So you just have a little bit of spatial awareness and err on the side of caution, which apparently is something that some men and pretty much every woman that exists can't do. So, we got Helibars installed. I did the video last week, or 2 weeks ago, whatever the hell it was, where we installed them. Now, I'm going to ride them and take them for a spin. Hopefully I put all the bolts in and tightened everything. Not, we'll find out. Going down the highway and all of a sudden the bars go gunk and come off. I'll be like, oh, you have a problem. People cutting corners because nobody knows how to take a left-hand turn. Or, yeah, it's always left-hand turns because you're cutting across. Everybody turns in way too early, and then they take the front of the car off if there was a car there, and then they run wide on the exit because the average person doesn't know how to frickin' drive. They know just enough to most of the time not smash into anything, and that's about it. Oh my God, get out of the way. So you go out here, and then you make your turn, and you're looking right down the thing. Everybody else turns in way too early and cuts that inner corner. That is poor form. So, oh, this thing, I forgot how fast this thing is. So we'll describe how we're feeling a bit. I'm not going to talk any kind of politics or any of that stuff today. We are on cold tires. It's all of like 55 degrees out. And so we're going to do two things. I'm going to discuss how the bars are working out, how they feel, all that good stuff. And it's time for me to have to go buy a new winter jacket. My faithful KTM that I've had, my KTM racing jacket. I have had this since I had a KTM Super Duke 990. And let's see, I met my wife in July of 2010. And I had already had the jacket for at least a year. So this is easily a 15, probably closer to a 16-year-old jacket. Which is the longest I have had of any freaking jacket. My A-Stars jackets never last long. They always freaking, the zippers go out. This one, finally the zipper went. Which is weird with A-Stars because everybody uses YKK zippers. They use the same damn brands. But there's something about Alpine Stars that they just never freaking work right. Like they work right for a while, and then one day you go to zip it up and it has a kink in it, and it just, it rips, and all of a sudden you can't get the thing off without breaking it. And it's like you either have to go to like a seamstress, they still have seamstresses around, and pay them to rip out the old zipper and install a new one. So I don't think I'm going to get an A-Stars jacket. So what jackets do I currently have? Well, I've got this one, which honestly has been the most comfortable, the best winter jacket I've ever owned. It's windproof, waterproof to a point. It's got a great liner, and it is nice and warm and toasty. And you know what? It'll take 3 turns of that friggin' light to get through there because how slow trucks are. So we're gonna go down and turn around. Yeah, he'll get through it. Light should be turning yellow before that next one gets there. Yeah. See? He'll get stuck. Then you gotta wait another 5 minutes for the next turn of the light. So we're gonna go down, turn around, and go that way, because I hate truckers. They're slow as shit. Always blocking traffic, and unfortunately there's a stupid paint distribution center there. So you cannot get through that light without getting stuck behind a stupid truck. Alright, make a little U-turn on our cold tires, not too sharp, don't get on the gas too hard. God, the power on this thing. It's like I'm used to this kind of power from like the ZX10R, but this is just in such a light package that it just feels more insane. The ZX10R definitely had more torque, but it's just absolutely brutal. I'm like, oh, I just need to put that little tiny, I gotta hang a little tiny portrait on the wall, and there's this little tiny brad kind of nail or staple. Here, let me hit it with a goddamn 12-pound sledgehammer. That's what this thing feels like. All right, let's go, let's go, let's go. Get that piece of junk out of the way. Yes, make sure you get in front of me and then go slower than the car in front, and go slower than the pickup, than the frickin' semi. And your little diesel. Oh, you got your little V6. That exhaust sounds terrible. When you have a V6, don't do an exhaust. Or a 4-cylinder. They never, ever sound good. Asshole not looking where he's going. Anyway, so let's see how the Helibars feel. Gotta look out for gravel anywhere near the bridges or turns. Well, they feel pretty good. I'm gonna ride for a little bit, and then when I get to an area where it's a little bit slower and less wind noise, I'll come back and talk more. So maybe I'll just fast forward through all of this. I'm starting to get a feel for it. Granted, it's a very short drive, but I will say it definitely feels better. You know, I think some bikes these make more of a difference than others, but I noticed that I'm not leaning because the bars are a little higher, a little wider, a little bit swept back, but my wrist is not at this crazy bent angle where if you put any weight on them, and I was say, well, don't put any weight on your wrist. I get that, but sometimes you do, especially when you're just tooling on down the road. And when your wrists are kind of, locked straight in a neutral, natural, comfortable position, that little bit of weight doesn't really cause any discomfort. Look at all the gravel here. when your wrist is at a weird angle, it takes that bit of pressure and really magnifies it. So this is a very neutral feeling bar, but honestly, you'd have to go from one to the other really to feel a major difference. It is significant, but I won't go so far as to say like, oh my god, it's so game changing in that it makes the bike feel anything less of a sport bike. It is. This is a super bike, in every sense of the word. Pushing, I don't know, 220 to the crank at this point with the ECU flash. 220-ish, 225, somewhere in that range to the crank. 185, 188, somewhere around that at the wheel. It's a very committed, your feet are up, high back. It's a very committed riding position, an ergonomic triangle. But this does feel better. We'll have to get it up all day in the mountains and stuff, because that's where you really start to feel it. Like by the time you're coming home at the end of the day, you're like, oh god, my wrists are killing me. But this feels really good. So far, just zipping down the highway for 10 minutes. No complaints. I will say, because I am raised up a little bit, it is putting my helmet more into the wind. I'm slightly less tucked in, but I'm a tall guy anyway, so I might benefit from a taller double bubble windscreen on this. If you're 6'4", we're a little big for the bike. But honestly, like, it's working for my legs. And in some ways, you're like, oh, tall guys being cramped on these bikes. But in other ways, it actually works for you, because you've got, for a short guy, if you had to lean down all the way, really stretch to get to the bars. But this, it's like, it's a fairly easy reach. I'm not really that hunched over being on this thing. Someone who's 5'7" or 5'8", they're going to be leaning forward to get to the bars comfortably. Here, I'm just a slight lean forward. It's not bad at all. And when you go on the highway, the wind is kind of hitting you in the chest a little bit, which kind of takes some of the weight off your wrists anyway, because the wind is pushing against you, pushing you back, so your weight's not all leaning forward. But it feels freaking good. The install wasn't bad. Do swap these out. Go get a nice stainless set of bolts that are just regular hex head and not the stupid tamper-proof ones. And learn from my mistake. Make sure that you lay a towel down to cover all the holes and nooks and crannies on this damn thing, because you're gonna drop a nut, bolt, screw, and it's gonna go down a hole, and it's gonna roll down under the airbox and sit on top of the engine block. Not gonna hurt anything, but you ain't getting to it without 45 minutes of ripping the gas tank off, which means some plastic has to come off. It doesn't mean you got to get to the airbox, and then that's got to come off. It's a whole freaking thing. And then put the goddamn bike back together to get to the bolt or the bit or whatever it was you dropped. Do yourself a favor. Put down. There's a bunch of little holes here, there, up there. It can go down and on the side there. And you're like, oh, it'll fall and hit the ground. No, it'll hit the radiator, go dink, and it'll bounce it towards the rear, and it'll go in between the radiator and the plastics, and then it'll go down another little nook and cranny. It's annoying. And very frustrating when you buy the damn bit on Amazon, the tamper-proof hex bit, or Star, whatever, Torx, and it's the only one you got, and you're halfway through the job, and you lose the bit down in the engine. And to get further, you need that to take the rest of the bike apart to get, it was a mess. So I managed to get the old ones out, went to Ace Hardware, and replaced those screws. I don't know if there's a big theft ring going around stealing people's Öhlins dampers, but whatever. So, does this detract at all from the sporting? Because I've had this, let's see, here's the bikes I've had this on. I've had it on a 2021 R1, a 2014 GSX-R 750, and a 2020 ZX10R ABS model. And then Sarah had them on her 2020 non-ABS ZX10R. And they made a remarkable difference for all-day riding comfort, you know? It didn't prevent her from dragging a knee on the track. It didn't prevent riding like an idiot in the mountains and hanging off the bike. They're still clip-ons, and that's the beauty. These aren't on big-ass risers. I know I've seen some other kits for different bikes over the years that you're installing a riser kit or, you know, something else, and it's like raising the bars up high. You physically can't on this because of, you know, everything's got to fit within this cutout of the fairing. If it's up too high, as soon as you turn the wheel, it smashes into the fairing, or it comes back and hits the gas tank. So, you know, you're only going to be able to adjust so much. You also, unless you want to be replacing cables, wires, and hoses, you know, you've got a certain window that you can work within. And so they've done a really nice job. It's a good finished product. I did give them a bit of hell through email because I ordered it on a Monday and paid for overnight or 2-day shipping or something, and then they didn't ship it for a week. They're like, oh, we're closed for inventory. Like, maybe you put that on your website, because then I would have gone to Spike Bike Track Gear, Revzilla. I might have gone somewhere else to get it in time because I wanted to buy the one weekend, because I knew after that shit weather was coming. I wanted to be able to do a ride review of this a couple weekends ago. They kind of foiled my plans by sitting on the order for a week. But I am glad that I stayed with it because it is a very good product. I got I think it was like a Christmas coupon code, so I want to say I paid like $336 or $335, somewhere in there. But, you know, basically with shipping or tax, you just say $350. And this is what I would recommend to people who, you know, it's fun to be the sport bike guy. I'll pick on my friend Jimmy. I love Jimmy, but he's a fucking muppet. He's very form over function. He's very image conscious, and he, you know, he wants to be R1 guy because he sees the R1 as that's the best of the best. You know, it's not, but he sees it as the best of the best, and that way if he buys it, then he's cool because he owns the best of the best. Even though that bike causes him pain and discomfort. Like, hey Jimmy, let's go ride up in the mountains. Oh, I can't, that's too far. I gotta trailer it, and Robert's got my trailer. What do you mean it's too far? Is your bike causing you pain and discomfort? No, it's not that. Well, then 45 minutes is not too far. If you can't ride your bike 45 minutes to get to amazing, beautiful, twisty, fun roads, and he comes up with excuses like, oh, I don't like the mountains are too dangerous. It's like, dude, you spent the first 20 years of your riding doing nothing but going to the mountains and going up and down Blood Mountain. But now you're a man of more years, and you've had a couple crashes and broke a collarbone. Now he just dislocated his shoulder real bad, and I'm like, this kind of bike is no longer comfortable for him. And he'll ride it on track, but when he goes to the Dragon, like when we go to the Dragon, we got Cameron and Jake and Dean and Nick. We make a whole day. It's like a whole thing. It's not like, oh, we're going to spend all of our day in the car and then we're just going to drive up and down the Dragon. That's freaking lame. The Dragon's not even that great of a road. There's just normally too many people on it, and trucks and Harley guys in the wrong lane. And so the Dragon itself, it's like a good destination, and you want to run it. You want to check it off on your bucket list. It is a cool road. But the ride up there, we take all back roads. We're hitting twisties the whole time. And he won't do it. This could make the difference. So he won't admit it. I don't want to spend the money. Why would you spend $18,000 on an R1? Well, nowadays, plus taxes and everything if you buy new. $21,000 for a bike that hurts you and is uncomfortable. And you can basically only ride it on track because you're trailering it there. And so you can ride it for 20 minutes and then you get to rest for 40 minutes. And if you do go to the mountains once a month, you don't, you trailer it. Why wouldn't you spend another $350 and get the goddamn set of bars? That would really help. And it does. Right now, I got no pressure on my wrists. I got no pressure on my neck. This feels great. And as I'm sitting here, like if I want to hang off the bike or do whatever I'd want to do that this bike was designed for. It's not getting in the way where risers or a set of handlebars or something goofy would change the rider triangle, which changes the balance point of the bike and how you interface with the bike. I'm not dealing with any of that. I'm still in attack position. I'm still ready to, hit a corner. Not today here on cold tires, but, I'm going to hit the track on this. Remind me, note to self, go look at the track schedule. I want to sign up for April or May at Road Atlanta. And I can't wait to get this thing out there. This thing's going to be awesome. It's going to be able to rocket down the straights like the 14, but I'll be able to brake a little later because it's 100 pounds less. Yes, you heard that right. It is a full 100 pounds less, at least, than the 14 was. So I'll get the same speed, but I won't have to worry about trying to slow that big girl down. Got a lot less weight to bring to a stop, so I'll be able to brake a little later and a little harder and be able to flick through the turns almost like a 600, and as soon as I have any kind of straightaway, put that monster power down. It's got better brakes. Well, it's got probably similar brakes. I hate watching people like that who are looking at their phone and creeping out in the intersection, and I'm like, are they waiting for me to go by? Or are they going to pull out in front of me? I don't trust anybody. And people that drive in cars that have never ridden on a bike, they don't think much of it because you're insulated, you're in the quiet, your car's you got the radio going, the heater on, you got supplemental restraint airbags and crumple zones and seat belts. Here I've got jeans. I got some pads in my jacket. And especially when you've hit the deck a few times from people freaking hitting you, animal jumping out in front of you, you start to not trust anybody. You just drive like everybody's an idiot. And you find out very quickly that most drivers are. They don't mean to be. It doesn't mean they're bad people, but the average person sitting there on their phone, listening to music, yakking to their girlfriend, whatever it is they're doing, it's not driving. They're kind of on autopilot. And they've got maybe 15-20%, if you're lucky, of their attention actually focused on what they're doing as far as driving goes. 80% of their mind and attention and focus is elsewhere. And they rear end your dinghy in a car, it's an inconvenient, you got to deal with insurance and stuff. On a bike, that's a whole nother set of problems. So I was getting nervous when people are doing that. I've seen too many people get T-bone a car just doing the speed limit. Some person's looking right, and you're coming from their left, and they just pull out in front of you. Like, well, it was clear when I looked. It was like, yeah, that was 20 seconds ago. I came around the turn and closed the distance in that time. So this feels great. I mean, I feel like I'm still over the front. I'm ready to attack the turn. I mean, it really feels tremendously good for this kind of a bike. And that's what I was hoping for. And it was absolutely that way with the R1. It was that way with the other two bikes. But back to Jimmy, if Jimmy really wants an R1, I keep telling him, if you're going to do that, get some goddamn Helibars. So you can ride all day, you can ride to the mountains, you're not limited to track days or driving 9 minutes from your house to Cycle Gear and back, and that's it, because that's all he does. But he doesn't want to admit he's getting older. And hey, we're all getting older. I'm on this bike right now because I know it's only a matter of time before I'm not really going to be able to ride a bike like this, where it's not going to make sense for me. So while I can still do it comfortably, I'm going to do it. But part of that was saying, I'm going to have to spend $350 and get a set of Helibars. I'm not Johnny Ray, who this bike and the ergonomic package was designed for. They made a couple concessions, for street riders, but they took a lot of input from Johnny Ray. And what's good on the racetrack and helping set a lap time in World Superbike is not necessarily what makes it good as an all-day motorcycle. So far, great success. Feels awesome. Definitely digging it. So we'll stop talking. That's my quick ride review. it feels like a sport bike. It just took my wrists from going there and brought them up. Raised my head up about 2 inches. I'm just sitting a little bit up, which makes it actually a little bit easier looking around. It's kind of when you're hunched over and you're looking around trying to look behind you. When you're a little more upright, it makes it a little easier to crane your neck back and keep aware of your surroundings. But so far, big plus. Do it. If you're a guy who likes this kind of bike, but a little on the oh, that's not distracting.